Welcome to the Cynthia Nyamai show. I'm so glad that you could join us today. Now, as we're speaking, over 35 schools in Kenya have been shut down because of what has been termed as student unrest. And almost every week we are receiving stories about schools burnt down by students. Students between the age of 13 to probably around 18. What is going on in our schools? Most of all, what is happening in our society? We'll be answering some of those questions shortly. Thank you so much, Mr. David Ewagata, for joining us today. Interesting name, Ewagata. Are you Kenyan? Where did you grow up?
This is an authentically African name.
Yes.
Yes, I grew up in Kenya,
Yes.
grew up in Nairobi. And yeah.
Yeah.
It's just one of those names that have no GPS location on them. Yeah.
You know, with us Kenyans, when you tell us your surname, we're always
know where you
trying
come
to
from.
figure out where is he coming from. So now we can't quite figure out.
Ewagata was manufactured. It was not inherited. It was manufactured. It's an interesting story.
Yeah.
A story for another day. Yeah.
Well, I'll still find out anyway. But you run as the director, the Y Hub.
Yeah.
What does the Y stand for?
Y speaks for youth. And it's a youth hub. Basically, we bring together young people to talk about issues about their spiritual formation,
Yes.
their personal interactions with people, and even just their personal growth.
Yes.
And also to get them to understand what's happening in their communities. And so
Yes.
it's based on 3 C's: connect, create, and compel.
Yes.
Connect to one another, connect to God,
Yes.
and connect to the realities around you, because sometimes those who are connected to God are not
Yeah.
necessarily connected to what is happening here.
Yeah.
Sometimes we are so caught up in what is happening around us. The second one is create. Think about what are the solutions to the issues we see around ourselves.
Yes.
And then the third part is compel. How do we then push one another and encourage one another to be able to fulfill what we dream of, our lives,
Yes.
our communities, our nation. Yeah, so that's why I have networks.
And with your experience, a lot of years experience with the youth,
Yeah.
what would you say is going on with the young people in Kenya at the moment?
The young people are sending smoke signals. We've not used them in a while. We've not used them in a while. And so it's a bit confusing. But they're actually sending signals that all is not right.
Yeah.
I think that's the big thing. And that is why we are so taken aback by it, because we've lived in a society that does not want to confront the issues. And so we would be happy if this week was the last fire.
Yes.
And then it stops.
Yes.
We will not investigate, we will not handle anything to do with it, we will go on with life because the smoke signals have gone off.
Yes.
And life is back to normal.
Yes.
Unfortunately, that is the reality we are dealing with young people. Yeah.
And when you talk to young people, what are they telling you? What are the realities? What is causing them to send those smoke signals?
Pressure. And pressure, I'm not just saying academic pressure, because sometimes we assume that a young person is just all about books.
Yes.
There's the social pressure that they're going through. Some of them will tell you, for frankly, what's that? That's Kenyanese. They will tell you frankly,
Yes.
they're more comfortable in their boarding school than at home because of the social issues happening at home, gender-based violence, financial constraints. Some of them have 3 square meals at school, not at home.
Yes.
And so it's not just the academic, there's social pressure. There is the moral decadence that is they're experiencing. And so there are students who are in school and are running another life out there, and they're looking for a way out to go back to their lives.
Yes.
Why? Because society has failed to raise children. We are raising mini adults. They're exposed to everything that an adult is exposed to.
Yes.
Our streets are riddled with bars and all other things. And so these guys have no chance to be children. Yet their emotional abilities are still of a child.
Yes.
Their ability to cope with pressure and things around them are still at the level of a child. And that is why we used to have PG ratings in movies, so that you don't see what is not what your body cannot absorb, or your mind cannot process, or your emotions cannot handle. But right now, everything is open to these young people.
Yes.
And so that pressure is now being expressed.
Yeah.
Of course, through the education system, but it actually goes back right to the home, right to the community that we are living in.
So what you're saying is the schools are burning because our homes are burning.
Exactly.
Yes.
We were sharing somewhere and talking about the slow roast. We don't mind if it's roasting slowly, because it doesn't necessarily stir us up.
Yeah.
But we hate when the fire flares up. And so when a school burns, it's a big thing, because suddenly it's in the news. Everyone, the CS is talking about it, press are out there. And so it creates a sense of, it's almost like a euphoria.
Yes.
As long as these kids don't do something dramatic, we will not ask if they're okay. We will not follow up to know whether they are doing well in school. In fact, once we pay school fees, we are happy for them to disappear into the woodworks of books and papers until when they show up again, and it troubles us. And so when the fires happen, it basically presents something that for some of them has come from home. Some of them it's come from the exposure they have experienced around them.
Yes.
And then now the school just becomes, you know, the last, the last straw that breaks the back.
Yes, yes. But there have been claims that part of the reason or the cause is because of COVID-19, and children were away for close to 1 year. So I've been wondering, okay, so we had our children at home for 1 year. They usually spend that year in schools.
Yeah.
What did we do to our children for that 1 year when they had to stay home with us for us to see the kind of reaction that we are seeing this year?
Well, they had a chance to breathe. But by the time they were getting halfway into that year, many of the young people that I interacted with were wishing to go back to school.
Yes.
They were tired. There's nothing as difficult as doing nothing. And so they got tired of staying at home. But then you see, as you stay home, you also develop a routine that is quite slow, quite lethargic. And so when you go back to the rigor of books, you have to readapt. And so many of them went back to school, and then what's the pressure? You have to still finish your academic year within that space of time. That means double the work. These guys are in school Monday to Monday. They have morning prep, they have night prep, they have lessons running through the day. There is no break, there's no stopping. We've said no sports, no spiritual activities in the school, no visiting. What happens? These guys are contained. It's literally like you having to work 24/7 for 6 months on end, with 1 week break in between. And you've come from a whole year of rest. And so there are so many things that have to adjust. If it was incremental, then it would make it easy for them. But it's just, boom, jump in. And so these guys are reacting like you would, like I would. It's just that we've been so pacified. And I say this, unfortunately, even when we need to speak about things, we don't. Because we've been routined to keep quiet. You know, when the boss says stand, you stand. When they say sit, you sit. These young guys are not from that school of thought. For them, they have watched enough movies to know that a young person can object. They have hung out enough with in homes where, you know, there's back and forth between the parents, and they're like, oh, I can raise my objection.
So are you saying that now parenting also needs to change? That they say what the teenager we have now is not the same kind of teenager we had 20 years ago, even 10 years ago?
The teenager today is very expressive. Expressive not just because of the way they have been raised, but expressive because they have realized if I keep quiet, nothing will change. They have watched their parents keep quiet when things are not going right. They have watched them keep quiet when prices go up. They have watched them keep quiet when, you know, everything that is going on, when our politicians do all their dramatic things, they just watch their parents keep quiet. But these young guys have a big take for social justice. And for them, doing right is very important. And so when we see these objections, because they're like, no, it's not right to put us under these circumstances with this. And the parents, like everyone else in society, are like, no, just calm down, you know. We've all gone through this.
During our days.
In our days, we were. And they're like, what? And you accept it. Because for us, social justice is important. That's why Unfortunately, sometimes we find these young people being arrested by police and even being harassed because they don't understand why a policeman will just ask you, where is your ID? And then after that, they're like, oh, you're going to... They're like, no, give me valid reasons. And so they are expressing what we have refused to express. They are banning schools because we've refused to raise objections about how the education system is going.
Quite interesting. I'm also learning. I think sometimes we forget what we were feeling when we were teenagers and so on. So I do want to find out how to better communicate with our young people. That and more coming up shortly. Welcome back. Now we're talking about the school unrest. What are the causes and are there any solutions? David Ewagata is telling us more because you have more experience with the youth. I'm still trying to understand youth and teenage. And now there's a name that I think Gen Z. I was going to call them millennials then. You let me know that's an old.
They're in college.
That's how badly I'm doing. Actually, when I was researching for this show, I realized that there is much more I need to probably read and educate myself so that I can communicate with the young people, because they've really changed. And you know, you talked about they're a bit more expressive. What are some of the things, other things that you have noticed changes in them, and also how can we communicate with them and learn how to adjust to them and their needs?
They're the funniest people. They're very much in touch with their feelings.
Yes, okay.
You know?
Yes.
They want to be happy.
Yes.
You know, this is the first generation. You ask, what do you want with your life?
Yeah.
I want to be happy.
Instead of saying, I want to finish my education.
No, they just want to be happy. Education is supposed to lead them to happiness, not to a career, not to be a high-paying job. They just want to be happy.
Yes.
And I've had that several times. And the first time it hits you very hard because you're thinking, that's funny, that's quite ambiguous.
Yes.
But then it's a reality. They want to be happy.
Yeah.
They want to be fulfilled.
Yes.
They want to be free.
Yes.
And so that is why we are seeing all these objections in our smoke signals.
Yes.
They're saying, you know what, we are not happy.
Yeah.
Even though we are getting an education, we are not being able to express our being. You know, I want to do me. I want to be me. You're not allowing me to do me, be me. I'm not a morning person. This is the first generation that tells you, I'm not a morning person.
You know, when you're saying that, it's quite interesting, because what you're telling me is, when I even look at the, you know, the Maslow and all these things of wanting to be happy and so on, we were taught they come much later. Self-actualization. It comes much later. Down here we suffer and so on. In fact, those things come when we're at around age 35 to even want to pursue happiness and realize some things, you know, just it's not about the rat race, but these are children who want it at a much younger age.
I think they've been exposed enough to see that you can actually achieve these things earlier. It's not just the grind of every day. And of course, as we also develop as a nation, I never understood how, you know, the way you would watch American kids and they're throwing a tantrum or I don't feel loved. You're thinking, dude, do they give you food? Do you have a bed?
Do you have shelter?
Do you have shelter? Okay, keep quiet and keep going. These kids are like, no, I want my peace.
Oh my goodness.
So they're very much in touch with themselves, and that is why social justice is a big thing. They don't want you to judge them where they are not wrong. And so when you see these school fires and a school is given a blanket bill, every parent is told 9,823. This kid is sitting there and saying, why is my parent paying 9,000? Why on earth is he agreeing to pay 9,823?
So these fines might not be a solution. It might just make the problem worse.
I spoke to one guy and he was like, I was in class. So I'm asking, so what does it feel like for them to pay? I'm like, it doesn't make sense. And so chances are, if this tendency goes on, these guys will go back to school and say, you know what? The last time I was innocent, I still paid. This time, I will light the fire.
I'll make it worth it.
So that when I'm paying that fine,
yes,
I know my parents deserve to pay.
Wow.
And so we are creating a system because for them justice is a big thing.
Yes.
Me being right is very important. I'd rather be right and dead than
yes.
than be misjudged and alive.
Yeah.
So they will not accept to be misjudged. And so we need to rethink how we are doing things because we've lived in a very cushioned life of covering things up. Oh, this scandal has happened. Skari imepotea. Let's just buy sugar from Brazil.
Yes.
And the sugar arrives in one day.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, I'm wondering how fast ships are in this world. You know, maize has disappeared. Mexico, maize. 2 days later. These kids are like, no, the distance between here and Mexico.
And we don't have electronic ships.
We don't have even Boeing 747s will not make it that fast. And so they're like, no, it's not making sense.
Yes.
And they begin to say, it's not making sense for all of us to pay this amount. So what's the next recourse?
And these are children who've watched even our judiciary system and people getting into court, and we have cases for so many years. And
theirs is judged in 1 hour, in 1 hour, in one board meeting. And so they're saying, this is not working right. And so some of these kids who are banning other schools may not even have issues in the schools. They're objecting on behalf of. They're like, sawa, wacha wajenge basi, wacha watufaini sisi wote. At the end of the day, let's see how many dorms will they have to fine us for. Because we are not sitting back to say, let's deal. Let's find out what's the truth behind this. Let's find out what is the real pain point. And as long as we are living in denial, these guys are just looking and saying, no, we see. There's a kid that, I don't remember what I did. So I punished him. And it was not his fault. That guy followed me for almost an hour. Why did you punish me? Why did you? I'm like, guy, I've already, it's over. I've already done it. He's like, no. Why did you punish me? Until the point I'm reaching, I'm like, am I supposed to apologize?
Probably.
That's when the African parent in me checked in. It's like, in Africa, we don't apologize. Let me tell you, with these kids, you will apologize. And I'm dealing with a case of this. And it's not even a teenager; it's a millennial. It's a Gen Z.
Gen Z, yes.
20-something-year-old.
Yes.
Who pestered the mom for 4 days because of something the mom said.
Wow.
Yani umesema mimi. Yani, mom, that's what you think about me. Day 2. The next day, so she plays for me this phone call conversation that they had. And she's ranting on the same thing. You'd think it's the first day. You know, they'll call you and say, no, I don't understand why you had to change the meeting. And for the first half an hour, I rant. This is day 4 of rant. Tell me, how many of us can rant for 4 days?
So how can we prepare ourselves? And even now, for those who are already parents, I'm thinking, because I'm not a parent yet, how do I prepare?
I don't know if you plan to have children.
at this rate.
Just come and hire some of ours. We'll be supplementing our kids.
But you know, I realize actually I'm not a parent, but I still have a role to play. I'm on social media. I meet a lot of them, even on TikTok. So the things I post are things that I now am thinking about, and because I'm communicating something to them. But it's true, they're very expressive. So sometimes I post something and they come and ask me, why did you post that? And I'm thinking, it's my page. I can post what I want, but I'm slowly learning how to probably even humble myself and then begin to talk to them. And the interesting thing I've come to realize that we have a lot in common, surprisingly. As much as I'm now 40.
We are the same guys, but we have our emotions like theirs are suppressed. Because they are not allowed to be felt. And so we need to be able to allow ourselves to hear them. It sounds awkward for somebody to tell you, I want to be happy. But find out, what does it mean for you to be happy? And in that one line, there's a whole story. But we don't want to hear that. We want them to just say, I want to study, get a job, because that's what our parents told us we need to see. And so they're saying, no, it's not just about the job, it's happiness. So you send them an application form to go and get a job in this company, which you think is a very important company. And they're like, I don't think I'll be happy. I saw the JD of that job, I'll not be happy. Did you see how much they're paying? No. I don't care about how much they're paying.
Yeah.
And so, because those were our measuring points, how much is the bottom line? It's how much you're earning. It's the profile of the company. We need to come back and also say, adults, and this question we asked ourselves several times, are the adults repairable? Are we actually in a point where we can say, we've done this wrong, let's shift gears and come back and do it right? Is it possible? Because look at our nation. Look at, you're saying, the social media.
Yes.
Look at the noise that is coming out of the adults. Forget about the kids. Look at the, we might not go on TikTok, but look at the news items that are the most tweeted, retweeted, the most conversed, discussed topics.
Yes.
It's all such, sometimes filth, sometimes, you know, corrupt, you know, and not just corrupt, but, you know, institutionalized corruption. It is all, you know, lie after lie, and the breach of justice systems. And so these guys are looking and saying, you know, people, and they're literally sitting in a place where they're saying, you know what, maybe it's just my age and profile that does not allow me to commit a crime and walk scot-free. So I need to grow up to the level where I can be like my dad, who can take a bribe and walk home and pay anyone else on the way who comes to ask about it, and buy a 5-bedroom house in Runda and settle down and live happily ever after. Because that is what they're seeing on media. That's what they're seeing on news. They're seeing parents who have mpangos. And we think those mpangos come from us. It's somebody's daughter. And so sometimes it's their classmate who's somebody's mpango. You had stories where this girl is telling her friend how, you know, is this guy, yani, I've kamwad him, yani, mpaka he's almost selling family land. Only to discover that the drama in their home is actually
caused by
the classmate. And so we think these guys are out there living a different life, and the things we see on TV are not people, are not homes, are not families, are not students, but they are. And so we need to begin to say, can we rectify our mistakes? Can I stop doing what I'm doing? Can I stop being the corrupt guy who steals and then burns City Hall? Because all the files are there. And we've seen how many City Halls have been burnt. See, Nairobi has banned several times. Let's face it.
We can't even count.
Kikosh is a foregone closure. You know, every other year we ban Kikosh. I think it was it Kisumu? And which other county? The City Hall was banned. Why? Cover up. So these kids are looking and they're watching and they're like, oh, that is Uncle so and so. And they're like,
so probably then we are having the wrong conversation.
We are having, unfortunately, we're not even having the conversation. We are having
because the conversation we are having is there is something wrong with our children. They need to be punished. We're going to charge them X amount. Yet the problem, they're simply reflecting what the adults are doing.
Children are a reflection of the society. If we spoke Kiswahili only, our children would speak Kiswahili only.
That's true.
If we spoke French, our children would speak French. There's no two ways about it.
So if we speak corruption, expect the children.
There was a story of these guys who adopted a Chinese kid, and the mother went to class to start learning Mandarin because they thought when the kid starts speaking, they'll speak Chinese. That's what we are doing with our kids. we are speaking because the kids look weird. They look weird. We are learning. We are trying to go on to school to study their language. No. We are teaching them the language. When you see those kids burning schools, it's our language they are speaking. And so it's us to change our story, our language. And that is what we don't want to do.
And is it possible?
It is possible. But are we ready to pay the price?
The price is?
The price is enact the rule of law to the letter. Look at the example of Singapore. Singapore was at the same level with Kenya. I think in 1986 they decided, their leader, I can't remember his name, decided from here, if you stole before, sawa, kana pesa yako. From here, if you steal, prison without trial until you prove yourself innocent. at sijui clubs sijui in the estate. You open a club in the estate, we will make you drink all that alcohol and close your club.
Yes.
And throw you in prison. Sijui garbage, sijui umefagia compound yako, you throw on the road. You will sweep the whole of that street.
Yeah.
They moved from 86, a third world country like Kenya, same GDP economic index, to an Asian tiger.
Yes.
Because they chose. Are our leaders willing to make that choice? Look at, you can say, oh, but that is Singapore, you know, those guys are tiny, they move quickly, you know, they're a different breed. As Africans,
yes.
Look at Rwanda.
Yeah.
From 1994, the genocide, ran down to the dust. The central bank was empty when the RPF came in. How many years now? Almost 30 years later. Right now, on every conversation in terms of development in Africa,
yes.
any serious agenda, Rwanda is mentioned.
Yes.
They are using less resources than Kenya. I think sometimes Paul Kagame looks at Kenya and thinks, if this was Rwanda,
yes,
we would be sitting on the same table with Japan, not even Singapore.
That's true.
We have great brain power. We've never had okay, of course we've had change in education system, but it's always been consistent.
Yes.
So we have one of the most learned societies. We have some of the most skilled people. I kid you not, go around this region, the CEOs of most of the banks, most of the hotels are Kenyans.
Yes.
Go to the agricultural industry, the guys who are running are Kenyans. Go to the airline industry. If you don't have a Kenyan in your team, your airline except probably Ethiopian.
Yes.
And even there we have pilots and all that. Which means we have the capacity to make this country a Singapore.
Yes.
But tabia mbaya.
Yeah.
It's basically bad behavior.
Yes.
It's me deciding your cup of sugar is worth, I mean, your bag of sugar is worth 200 shillings, I'll make it 400.
Yes.
And then you come and go to hospital and the doctor decides your bill was 4,000, I'll make it 10,000. In fact, I'll add a surgery that you didn't need.
Yes.
And we've muddied the waters why there's no system. And we don't want to put a system because the system will put even I in check.
Yes.
Right now we have the discussion of things flying through the roof. The DCI has been put in court, in jail, or is being arrested.
Yes.
This is who prison officers have.
Yes.
The drama in the... You look at this country and they're like, what will our children inherit?
Yeah.
And so unless we sit back and say, let's put back the rule of law. Let's start doing the right thing. Let's go and say, what is the price of teaching a child? Let's pay our teachers well. Because even those teachers are frustrated. Let's get our students proper facilities, be it public school or private school.
Yes.
Let us have a conversation with the stakeholders. That's the parent, that's the teacher, that's the student, that's the ministry. None is less than the other. Let's bring them all together on a round table.
Yes.
And have a candid conversation. Let us talk about the behavior of the parents. because the CS is a parent.
Yeah.
The principal is a parent. The teacher, the education officer is a parent. Those guys who come to the school to say, now we are going to charge you for this and this. The board of governors in the school are parents.
Yeah.
So we can't point at this biological person alone and say it's your fault. All of us are parents. Let's have a round table and decide what kind of a future are we going to establish for our young people.
Yes.
Because if we don't raise our children, this one of my good friends says, if we don't raise our children, we will raise our grandchildren.
That's true. That is so true. But even as we're thinking about we will raise our own grandchildren and what inheritance are we going to leave, paint a picture for us. If we don't sit at that round table and begin to have this kind of conversations, what kind of country are we going to have in the future?
Let me answer that with a story. A friend of mine had a bad upbringing and really had daddy issues.
Yes.
He told his dad when he was a little teenager, two things are happening. You're growing older and I'm growing bigger.
Yes.
If you don't kill me when I'm growing up, I'll kill you when you grow old.
Wow.
That is how bad it was. Now, we can look at these young people now and say, you are small children. But know one thing. We are growing older, they are growing bigger.
Wow. That's
Today
profound.
we can stop them from burning schools and fine them.
Yes.
Tomorrow we'll be sitting in old people's homes.
Yes.
Not far from now. That's if they have the homes. They can even tell you, you know what, there's a time, there's a guy, this comedian was saying that Vision 2030 is everyone who is above 30 goes to shags and leaves the guys below 30 in the city. Again, the way we are treating these kids, I will not be sad if they decide, too many hours there, what your shago,
that's what we've taught them anyway.
We've failed to raise them.
Yeah.
We've refused to grow up and become parents. We've refused to grow up and accommodate the rule of law.
Yes.
We are breaking the rule of law. How many kids have watched their parents give a bribe to a policeman?
Or even just lie on the cell phone.
Lie on the phone.
Yes.
Refuse to do what is right. Because we assume, sometimes we think there's a corrupt clique of people who do not have wives and children, and they're the ones who are stealing. But that person is a wife or a husband, a father, a mother. And so you go steal money from KEMSA and come and pay school fees for me. The case shows up because you know people. I hear you making calls. Man, this thing is hot, banner. Hey, get them off my trail, man. This year is DPP is sending, hey, talk to. And then things cool down. And we see the lifestyle has changed. And we know my father doesn't earn all this.
Yes.
That kid knows.
Yeah.
They know your position, they know your role, they know your salary. Sometimes, you know, the what is it? The person in charge of civil service they will put out all the salary scales. So they know my dad doesn't. My school fees is 900K.
Yes.
He can't afford that on his salary. His salary is 600K. Even if it's a good salary. So they are seeing our corruption. They are seeing our conniving. They are seeing our lying. And they're just saying, you know what? We want something better for ourselves. And that includes putting you on the side. And this kid told the dad, I'm growing old. You're growing old, I'm growing up. If you don't kill me when I'm growing up. I pray that we will stop and address this before it's too late. Because this generation is not sitting somewhere waiting to, you know, be sorted out. With every day, they are turning 17. They're turning 18. Then they become voters. Then we get upset because they have voted a guy who doesn't look like us. Then they turn 20. Then they become the candidates. And then they get voted in. And then now we are sitting to watch the movie. As they say, Afro cinema continues shortly.
That's something I really don't want to think about. And I think that's why it's important to have this conversation. And we're so grateful that you could join us today. And even as we are winding up, this is one conversation that we need to continually have as a nation, because we are the adults. And something profound that I've learned today, I'm growing older and they are growing and growing stronger. What nation are we going to have in just 20 years? Until next time, see you.